Let's bring in Jonathan Schanzer with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. You probably heard that conversation a minute ago with the congressman, and he made a very good point about the fact that, the amount of economic growth and succor that the previous administration gave Iran prior to this. Would we even be here right now if it had not been for that 4-year reign of promoting Iran?
Well, I think it's a good question, and I think it really does begin with the maximum pressure campaign that Donald Trump put on the regime, and it was working. We were watching those cash reserves drop down to like fumes, right? We were watching the regime have to choose between guns and butter, as they say, and they were definitely running out of time. When we saw the Biden administration come in, they started to allow for the illicit sale of oil. They looked the other way as the Chinese and the Russians were buying that Iranian oil. And so that's exactly what happened over time. But let me also be clear, though, that Iran's nuclear program also grew significantly under the Biden administration's nose, even after the 10/7 attacks, which, of course, the Iranians sponsored. It was negligence across the board for 4 years.
Real quick, we understand that there's an oil field that was bombed that Iran owns a part of, Qatar owns a part of, and then we hear the United States is invested in. And, we've all seen the meme that says our tax dollars somehow also our tax dollars. And it shows basically the Iron Dome in effect and just the complexities of how different administrations have put us in different positions. When you hear that, is that a liability for the United States? Hey, we can't let Israel bomb that oil field, or is it a point of leverage? Is it a way that the president can tell Iran, hey, this is another thing that we can control and we can influence?
Well, look, first of all, the Israelis can bomb one side and not the other. So the energy facilities on the Qatari side need not be struck if the Israelis are hitting what's happening on the other side in Iran. But let me just note here that the Qataris, they're not our friends. These are the people that actually sponsored Hamas. They were some of the key patrons of Hamas before 10/7. These people have sponsored the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. The fact that we continue to work with this regime, it's ill-advised. And I think that is also something that probably needs to come into the picture here. But I do think that the Israelis have pinpoint precision, and I do think that they can hit the Iranian side without harming American interests.
A lot of times when these kind of wars happen, we talk about regime change, but we don't actually really know who the next person is that will be in charge. Sometimes they're worse than the guy that we got involved with deposing. So what do you know? We had this conversation just a little bit earlier with Congressman Mills. What do we know about what would happen if the Iranian regime were to fall?
Well, I think there are a couple of scenarios that folks have played out. I think the first thing that we always talk about is giving maximum support to the people of Iran. This is a young population. They're pro-West. They're pro-America. They hate this repressive regime. And I think the vast majority of the people in Iran, if they were allowed to vote in a free and fair election, they would probably support the right kind of person, the kind of politician or the kind of figure that we would want to see in power. And I don't think we need to engineer it like we tried to do in Afghanistan or Iraq. I do think that, the natural state of play is that way. Now, I do think that there are a couple of other options, though. One is to find moderates that are truly opposed to the regime from within. So in other words, a sort of a soft coup. And we've heard rumors that such a thing could happen. That's a little dangerous because what you don't want to do is to swap out some, radical who's soft peddling their dark past and then maybe try to revive the regime. And then, of course, there is the son of the former Shah of Iran. This is a very powerful figure in the Iranian diaspora. This is someone that I think does have a lot of influence both inside and outside Iran. And there are some who say that maybe he should get on TV, that maybe he should start to exhort the Iranian people to rise up and to try to put an end to this so that war doesn't continue.
Well, Donald Trump has suggested perhaps a negotiation is still in the offering. Do you believe that we've crossed that point of no return, or is that still a real possibility?
Oh, I think what the Israelis are doing right now is giving Donald Trump leverage in ways that he probably never imagined. I mean, they are taking out military assets across the country.
Right.
They've taken out nuclear assets across the country, economic assets. The regime is looking weak, and they know how bad it could get if the Israelis keep going. You saw the destruction here in Israel that Trey Yingst was showing you on screen. It is nothing compared to what the Iranians have sustained now for more than 2.5 days. The regime has to know that it cannot continue.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Stay with us.
Pleasure.